What up, what up, what up? Dave and Matt back with you. Sports Carnival broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studio. Hope you're having a great start to your Friday morning. Matt, it's been a couple of days since we've been back on together. Actually, it's been, well, nearly a full week. How you doing, man? You holding up okay after that Vegas trip and the mountain of shit you had to get back to?
Oh, man.
You know, as a regular business owner or something, which sounds terrible.
Yeah, I get what you're laying down, brother. I think I'm still climbing that mountain. We're getting up there. Top of the morning. Pure blessings to everybody out there listening and watching us today. I had a great trip with you, brother. Obviously, it's just one of those things coming back from everything. It kind of takes like a couple extra days to almost a day more than the day you're gone to finally feel like you can catch your breath and get everything back to normal. So I'm back. I'm happy to be back with you. It feels a little more normal being back up here. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's always like one of those things. You take vacation and then you're like, oh yeah, that's right. It's 1.5 times as long as we were on vacation as it is to get back to normal. And that's probably because in some way, shape, or form, you're really not wanting to come back from vacation, especially if you have such a great one like we did. Listen, Vegas and for all those in Vegas that did kind of make our trip so special, Vegas was epic. I mean, it was one of the best trips I've ever had. It was fantastic.
It was epic. King Raff reached out to me again yesterday, asked us to make sure we got home. So I was very appreciative of him of getting us to the airport on time. And we met a lot of cool people out there. Two of your very good friends, which I had a great time to meet, both of Mike and Bob. So it was awesome.
Yeah, Rob Mish, Mike Mack, great guys. And of course, Rob, sports author, sports journalist, Chicago Sun-Times, and Mike owns that store, Max Pawn in Las Vegas and Max Luxury, as a matter of fact. So two really cool interactions. And Mike gave me a ticket and a chance to go to a Golden Knights game, dude.
Man.
That was just really a lot of fun. So glad we're back in the saddle, though. It was a great vacation, though. A lot of fun.
It was a great time. I'm happy you brought up the hockey game because I'm happy you got to enjoy it. I have to throw it out there that last night was a little sad for me personally, being a hockey fan. Got to see Johnny Toews wear the Blackhawks sweater one more time for the Hawks last night. Unfortunately, he's not being re-signed, but it's the end of an era for Blackhawks hockey, but at least I got to see him play one more time, and he got a goal in his last game. So last night was a rough day for me as a sports fan, but we have so much sports to get through this weekend, buddy. It's crazy weekend of sports.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, you look back at Toews' career, 3 Stanley Cup championships, 15 seasons with Chicago. He's going to be one of Chicago's, and I don't mean just the Chicago Blackhawks, but he's going to be one of Chicago's better individual athletes as far as a team sport is concerned, probably of all time. That's something that I hadn't really thought about contemplating. And because Toews' career isn't technically over yet, even though it feels like it might be, the effects of long COVID that he's been dealing with have really kind of hampered him this entire season. But when you look back, I guess, at Toews' career, 15 seasons in a Blackhawks jersey, 3 Stanley Cup championships, you've got Jordan, you've got Pippen, they've got the 6 rings. But then you sort of look around and you're like, Walter Payton, of course, because of the legend that was Walter Payton, he's going to get that as sort of a cherry on top of just the one Super Bowl. But I think Toews is probably a top 5 all-time Chicago athlete. Well, I mean, is that fair, or is that going too far because he's hockey?
I think I might go too far. I obviously top 10 for me, just because, like you said, it is hockey. I mean, there's so many hockey players out there.
Just off the top of your head, like, who do you have ahead of him? Like, so just rattle off top Chicago guys to you.
Well, for me, he's easily top 5, top 6, but obviously if people up there, they're going to put up Peyton, Sears, Buckus. You'd even throw out Greg Maddux as a Cubs pitcher. I mean, you have Sandberg, Santos. I mean, you have all these old school players. And that's not even
Ryan Sandberg. I mean, I guess Maddux didn't do much with the Cubs, though.
He did, but I'm guess for one of those guys that he was, I'm just going to those old school baseball players that were, when they were in their prime, they played for those teams. And I didn't even get to Pippen. I didn't even get to Jordan. I didn't get to all those other players out there. I guess with Toews, he's the 5th youngest captain, I believe, in NHL history. Came up with the Hawks, and I mean, he's always, not to go down on that whole Robin Williams thing, but captain, my captain, he's going to be my favorite captain from every sports team from Chicago of all time. So.
See, you know, and I'm not from Chicago, I can't say, but I grew up watching the Cubs on Widgeon, right? WGN in Vegas was something we got nationally. Ryan Sandberg was, of course, one of those guys that we all love to watch because he played for a team, the lovable losers. Yeah. The Cubs were fucking awful.
I mean, we're talking championships. Yeah.
Well, I'm just talking about in general, because I don't know that you can consider Ryan Sandberg a great anything. I mean, he was a good baseball player. Just let me finish. He was a good baseball player, but the Cubs had no team success at all.
For sure.
So I think the baseball part of it maybe, but I'm just thinking in terms of like Chicago greatness, right? And Gale Sayers, again, that's more of a legend that lives because of Brian's song and all this other shit. I don't know that his 7 years in the NFL before anybody was watching that thing really counts, but I hear you.
I
guess,
didn't even bring up Chelios or Roenick or Belfort when it comes to hockey too. So there's so many names out there. I guess.
No, definitely. But with that Blackhawks team and being with that city for so long, I guess I look at the total body of work: 15 seasons, 3 Stanley Cups. Was he an MVP? Did Taves win an MVP once?
He won several several awards. I can't remember what they were. I can't remember what they
were.
Well,
they have a whole bunch of different
names.
Yeah, the Vezina trophies for the goalie, and there's all sorts of different trophy names. I was just curious if he had been, leading point scorer. It doesn't matter. I guess when you look at Taves's impact probably on the Blackhawks, he's going to be remembered, I would imagine, by many Chicago sports fans, especially those that are, under 75 or 80, right? Because if you're talking Gale Sayers, like maybe Bob Ibeck saw him. I don't know. Right. Maybe your grandpa saw him. I don't know. But they're not really tape of Gale Sayers, But I think that for recent Chicago fans, he's probably right up there. I mean, he's got to be at least in that conversation. Again, hockey not necessarily anywhere close to what the impact of football, basketball, baseball is. But in Chicago, I think that might be one of the markets in which hockey probably has a larger impact than it does in Phoenix.
Taves will be remembered as the engine, and Kane will be remembered as the Flash. The subs of those three those 3 hockey championships.
That's a good point.
Taves was the engine, Kane was the Flash.
Yeah. Well, listen, really, really great run, and for the Chicago Blackhawks, the season was largely a wash for 76 of the 82 games. So it wasn't really like a whole lot to see here. But you said it. It's an end of an era in Chicago, and I'm sure there's a lot of Chicago fans that feel similar to the way that you do. All right, we're going to step aside. We'll come back. We got a lot to cover today. We've got the Brewers beating the Padres yesterday. The Rays off to a near historic start. They tied history yesterday with the Brewers and the Braves. We'll talk about that. The XFL, USFL, both in action this weekend. USFL will be kicking off its inaugural week of the 2023 season, and the NBA play-in tournament will wrap up this evening. That will set the final teams for the NBA postseason. We'll find out who the Bucks opponent will be after the Bulls and Heat. So stay tuned. We're back here on the Sports Carnival in just a second. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Do you have a wedding, anniversary party, or bat mitzvah coming up in your life? Then you need Hey Duda DJ services, featuring Neil Duda, the Midwest Eminem.
No doubt about it, I've been hammered, and that's every day. Brains are cloudy, dog.
Dropping sick beats while you enjoy your treats. No party is too big or too small. Quinceañeras, graduations, ice cream socials, or cocktail parties. Whatever the celebration, Hey Duda is rocking the foundation.
Here we go again, back with all our friends. Here comes the pain.
Neil Duda.
Oh, we got to love our buddy Neil Duda, who's probably watching this morning but can't text in because he's a driver. Smartly done, Neil, because if you're driving and texting, yeah, you're gonna get in an accident or something. Hey, by the way, speaking of accidents, it should be no accident if you happen into the Recovery Room this upcoming weekend. Matt, patio is open. Boy, is it awesome outside. It is really awesome outside. Yesterday, we had a whole bunch of folks enjoying the patio. If you're thinking about making it out for lunch, I know Jason P1 Breacher was talking to me about coming out for lunch. I'd love to be able to host you. I'm starting the day off with you at the Recub, so come and get your spicy or your traditional gyro. Yesterday, the boys put together a pork cutlet sandwich as a third option for our specials. Unbelievable. I helped that thing fly out of the kitchen and to the hands and mouths of many of our customers. There may still be maybe one or two of those things left down there. I don't know. Have you heard?
It looked delicious when I was coming out yesterday. He was hanging out with you for a little while, trying to play catch up after our Vegas trip. But yeah, everything the guys are doing. And the one thing that I love about our patio, Dave, and obviously you're great at letting everybody know about it, but it's kind of that little hidden oasis that it's kind of not a lot of people know about it. So once you find it, people just truly, truly enjoy coming out to the patio.
Well, once you did the patio with the stamped concrete, the dog-friendly confines, because that's another thing here. If you want to bring a dog, as long as it's on leash, well-behaved, isn't going to get all sorts of crazy when it sees another dog like mine, then bring them on
mine.
down,
Yeah.
or yours. Yours. Those are two good things. Mine are yours. As long as they're not fucking up our dogs, then you're pretty much good.
Yep.
So come on down. See us starting at 11 o'clock this morning. Mike Schmidt is checking in here this morning. Maddie, Mike is one of our weekly contributors, of course, the uniquely qualified coach of the NSU Wolves, which, by the way, Mike, if you can tell, and maybe you can because you're watching, I'm wearing my NSU Strong shirt today here. Go Wolves. Does check in about Taves and says this: Taves is an absolute legend. He and Kane are two of the most clutch athletes in Chicago sports history. A-plus human being, will be remembered as one of the greats. And I realize that for many of our audience members, hockey might sort of fall on deaf ears, right? It's not everybody's, even the average fans' most favorite sport, because it really does take quite a bit to get into hockey. You have to know who the players are. You have to, really know the game as far as from a rules perspective. You watch it on TV. It can be hard to follow the puck, Matt. I'll be fair.
Mm-hmm.
It can be really hard to follow the puck on TV. So from a viewership perspective, it's never had that captivation of national TV eyes that baseball, football, basketball have had. But if you're a hockey fan, and I think that Mike is not just a hockey fan, but a sportsman in general, you do get it, and you do understand how impactful these guys are. That's where I came from with that take on Jonathan Taves, is just that you look at the body of work and the impact really too that he had on that Blackhawks team. And Kane gets a ton of credit, because you're right. Thunder and Lightning right there. That was a great matchup, a great duo. They were part of one of the better lines of the last 10 seasons, right? The Blackhawks were not good before Taves and Kane got really good with that team. The Blackhawks, and you could tell me how long, but it suffered through some obscurity for quite a number of years, right? They were the also-ran in Chicago, behind the Cubs, behind even the White Sox for a while, and of course behind the Bulls and Bears, who really kind of dominated the sports landscape. I just look at Taves and Kane, but especially now that we're talking about Taves departing, and say, wow, what an impactful career that you had. And for even a tangent hockey fan, I think the name Jonathan Taves, it registers, right? Like, you could ask people in Chicago that maybe don't watch hockey, what do they think? And they're like, oh, this guy's awesome.
Oh, for sure. I guess it was me just trying not to be too much of a homer.
I feel that.
With Johnny Taves and Kane, the one thing, Kaner was great when the Blackhawks got a very minimal, in my opinion, back when they traded him to the Rangers. He's going to continue on his career with the Rangers. We'll see. Taves might come back and play. He didn't play all of last year either because of the long CRS and then the COVID thing. It's going to be hard to see either of these guys play in a different jersey, but that's the best, or a sweater, as I should say. But that's the best thing about the Wirtz family buying the Blackhawks is they recovered the tradition of the Blackhawks, like you brought up in past when the Hawks were the also ran.
Yeah.
They had some shitty ownership as well back then. So it's nice to see that these kids will be coming back. Patrick Sharp called the game last night sorry, we're getting into too much hockey, but it's just good to see all these kids come back, or players come back to an organization that they gave so much for, and they're going to be welcomed back with a red carpet.
Oh yeah. Don't worry about talking too much hockey here, because just throwing it out there, the NHL postseason,
so much fun
still is one of the most exciting postseasons of any. And as a matter of fact, it might be my favorite. It starts on Monday. The NHL postseason starts on Monday. I'm stoked. I want to switch gears here, though, a little bit, because while we've got, the Jonathan Taves departing, as one of our key stories of the morning, we've got some Brewers talk that we want to get to. The NBA play-in tournament's going to set up the Bucks for their first round matchup. Will it be the Bulls? Will it be the Heat? We got to go to the Tampa Bay Rays, who are making history right now. Yesterday, they tied history, as a matter of fact, with the 87 Milwaukee Brewers and the 82 Atlanta Braves to start 13-0. Now, this is modern baseball history, which is 1900 to present. There has been a longer streak in the history of Major League Baseball. It was the 1884 St. Louis Maroons. We're not going to be talking about that because it was just a couple of years after the old Civil War was won for the Northern Aggressionists. So we're not talking about baseball in 1884. But from 1900 to present, it's a pretty good sample size. The Rays are now one win away from making Major League Baseball history. They have another tough test again today with the Blue Jays, who are one of the better teams, at least purportedly, in Major League Baseball in the American League. The Blue Jays won't just lay over or lay down for these guys. Neither did the Red Sox yesterday, but Tampa Bay has got history within their sights right now. And I was watching the game as much as I could at the bar yesterday as the Boston Red Sox started off really well against Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay had been giving up basically like no runs. Their last 10 games, their ERA, Matt, is 1.58 in their last 10 games. 1.58. They're basically shutting everybody out. So Boston gets off to a good start, and I'm thinking, you know what? This could be the end of the streak. 13-0, it's hard to get to. Well, Tampa Bay just digs in, and they come out with a really, really nice win, comfortable, but when it was all said and done. Today, again, against the Blue Jays, you can see the line on your screen if you're watching us. Rays are favorites, not super heavy favorites, but they are favorites, minus 136. The total on this game, the over-under on the run total is 9.5, and that's the play that I would make if I was looking at this game. I would say take the over on the run line. Even though Tampa Bay hasn't been giving up many runs, their offense has been explosive. I mean, they've got 5 guys on that team batting over 300 right now. I don't want to be one of these, I don't want to be one of these I told you so type of folks. But, Matt, the Tampa Bay Rays have been a team that I've been talking about for a long time, and we talked about them before the season. This is a shoestring budget squad, right? A small market team in essence that only drew 21,000 fans yesterday, a record for them at this point of the season, which is a half a stadium. And yet they're able to put together winning seasons, not just this year, but consistently. Smart management, smart scouting, and smart player development. That is the key to the Rays' success. They're not buying players out here.
No, I agree with you. I'm sorry. I have 2 stats for you that I have run for you. In the last 117 innings, they've only trailed in 6. And you just brought up the modern day baseball. That is unheard of with the amount of pitching that it goes out there. The home run ball nowadays, there's obviously baseball's gotten a little different, but there's more base runners. The game's gotten more action. That is crazy to me. And their outscoring margin is 101 runs to 30.
Yeah.
They're playing together as a team. What I loved yesterday is after they won, they all came out in like tight rolled jeans and like 80s shit. So these guys are having fun. They're playing together as a team, and they're very, very selfish. They're playing selfless. Yes. Selfless. Thank you. They're playing together as a team. That doesn't matter what position or where they're coming in or off, or what, starting pitcher, closing pitchers. These guys are having fun. And like you said, these are not bought players. They coming up together, and they're playing as a team and as a family, and they're just fucking fun to watch, man.
Well, they're really fun to watch, and I understand, and we had Mike Schmidt talk about this, or maybe it wasn't Mike, but I remember somebody talking to us about this Tampa Bay beating up on bad teams. It was Rob Mish, excuse me. Rob Mish. Mike, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to besmirch your fine and uniquely qualified name. Rob Mish was telling us that they were just beating up on bad teams. And listen, that's part of it, right? You're in a division, the American League East, that while it's got a lot of great teams in it, you've got some cellar dwellers. At least you've got one in Baltimore. So you can beat up on some bad teams in the American League. However, I give the Rays a ton of credit, like you mentioned, for being that type of team that right now seemingly has come together. Maybe it's early. Maybe it's way too early to get your hopes up if you're a Rays fan. But this feels like a team, I don't know of destiny necessarily, but one that really loves playing together. And because of that, baseball is a game that you really need to have your mentals in order to work through a 162-game marathon. This could be one of those teams. Now, Matt, I've got a question for audience members, and I want you to check Facebook because I've got our Twitter feed open. At the Sports Carney Facebook group page is another place that you can take this morning's poll question. If you're a member of the Sports Carnival Facebook group page, awesome. If not, join up. Will the Rays be able to make history and start 14-0? Again, they take on the Blue Jays today. Our Twitter feed, at the Sports Carney, 100% say yes.
We have 58% on the Facebook poll saying yes. So we don't have 100%, but we have 58% saying Tampa Bay will make history at a 14-0 start. I'm going to throw this out to you, Dave, as a comparison. I'm going to say the Milwaukee Brewers and the Tampa Bay Rays are very similar. If you look at how much fun they're having together, there's some young teams out there. I'm going to throw this out there that they're winning the games they're supposed to be winning, both teams. So Tampa Bay has obviously won all their games. The Brewers have come out. They're not on the hottest streak in the world, but they're winning the games they're supposed to be. They're having fun. They haven't had the same amount of competition. The Brewers just got through San Diego last night.
I was going to say the Padres are a pretty good team.
But that was my point. So they're finally coming up on a team to see where they're at. And so it's the same thing with the Rays that they're playing the Blue Jays this weekend. So we'll see where it goes. But you, Bob, and I all agree that both these teams are winning the games that they were supposed to.
Yeah. Rob Mish was talking to us about Tampa Bay again, just kind of beating bad teams. I mean, look, I'm seeing the Cubs. The Mets were supposed to be really good. The Cardinals were supposed to be good. The Diamondbacks, I don't know. But now the Padres, the Brewers, they haven't beaten just bums. And at 9-4, I am impressed. I can see where you're going with the feeling behind those two teams, sort of like that energy and the closeness. I really hope the Brewers can do exactly that. Be one of these teams that remains really, really tight, really, really close. Get over some of those early hurdles like Corbin Burns and, a couple of pitching starts that didn't look awesome. He feels like he's come back. Freddie Peralta's been great again. Not having Josh Hader does definitely change the end of these games, though, guys. It really does. Not having a closer like that sort of changes the way the Brewers play, but they did eke out a win last night, 4-3. Rowdy Tellez hits a sacrifice fly, I believe it was. That's how the Brewers ended that game. That thing was on way too late for this dude. It was past my bedtime before they ended that thing, but a good win for Milwaukee, 9-4 on the season. Coming up today, 8:40 p.m., the Brewers will be back against the Padres. Looks like we're going to have pitching matchup. I've got this up in front of me here let's see who we've got going tonight. We've got Eric Lauer going for the Crew against Michael Waka Waka, who is 2-0 already this season for the San Diego Padres. So should be an interesting matchup again, 8:40 p.m. Playing out there on the West Coast definitely changes the way that you can enjoy some of your favorite teams. This is something, Matt, that you and I talked about when we were out west and we were watching, the XFL games on the Sahara's, 95-foot screen, right? These screens they've got outside, if you've seen our pictures on Facebook, look like they're 90 inches. No, these things are 90 feet.
It's gorgeous.
It was amazing. I mean, but we're talking about multiple stories worth of screens that are out there in complete high definition. But we're watching the XFL, we're watching all these, we're watching all these different games, and we're seeing, just so many different things pop up.
We had the Masters, we had baseball, we had hockey, we had everything on at the same time. I found heaven when we were out there, man, at the pool. It was awesome.
It was pretty cool. I mean, it really was. The Padres again, against the Brewers tonight, 8:40. I get kind of lost when I think about how sometimes you forget exactly the overload that you can take sensory wise when you're out there and you're seeing every single sport in the entire world being consumable to you in one location. It's sort of overwhelming.
And it's only 1:00 in the afternoon.
And it's only 1:00. Oh, that was what I was going to say too.
Yep.
It's early.
Yep.
And if you're a fan of some of these teams, you get to watch it, right? We're watching XFL early. We're watching the Masters early. We're watching these things. And then we still get to go outside, have some fun into the evening, maybe even have some more fun. One of our Facebook group members checked it in, said 159-3 is still in play. Is that Bob Ibeck?
Rick Hamilton.
Okay, Rick. That's nice. Yeah, it's not in play, but there you go. Listen, anything's possible. I actually, that is impossible. I don't think you wouldn't be able to stumble on that much luck. Like, I mean, seriously, not in baseball. There'd be just absolutely no way to do that. That said, again, the Brewers playing with some real vim and real vigor, real fire. The Rays, history in the making, perhaps. What do you think about that? Will they be able to reach 14-0? Take a poll question of ours on our Facebook group page or our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. Something else that we've got to get into here this morning, and this is something that I wanted to heap tons of praise on you for, is this. The Washington Commanders have now got a tentative agreement in place and have tentatively announced the sale of the franchise from Dan and his wife, Tanya Snyder, to Joe Harris, who is a sports owner already. Owns, I want to say it is...
I'll look it up.
He owns an NBA team right
Nets,
now,
isn't it?
No, but either way, so we've got a sports owner that is going to be buying the Washington Commanders,
the Brooklyn Nets.
Is it the Brooklyn Nets?
Yep.
Oh wait, that's right. The Russian oligarchs sold that team to him. Okay,
Yep.
So Joe Harris, also one of their. I thought he played basketball for him. There's another guy, Joe Harris, that was a forward. All right, so Joe Harris, and this is not a done deal. Okay, the deal's fully financed, but because it's not a signed, sealed, and delivered deal, there's not a cash buyer out there for this. This deal could still get scuttled, right? It still could be something that gets pushed off to the side, and another owner could come in. It won't be Jeff Bezos. From what we understand, Bezos is not going to be bidding on this team. Magic Johnson and a group of potential buyers was trying to get into this. There are still some folks that are trying to get in, but for what it's worth, as of this morning, the Washington Commanders have announced in principle that they've got an agreement to sell the Commanders to Joe Harris and his group for the tune of $6 billion. Now, the guy that you're seeing on the screen, the dirty, the lying sack of shit, Dan Snyder, is going to make himself an incredible fortune. I mean, the dude's already insanely rich, but he's going to make himself an incredible fortune. The group that bought the Washington Commanders at the time, the Redskins, Matt, in 1999, bought the team for $800 million. That's nothing to sneeze at. Okay, that's the GDP of like 46% of the world's countries. That was a drop in the bucket to what he is getting in return. $6 billion. Listen, say what you will. Dan Snyder is a piece of shit. I think Dan Snyder is a dirty, rotten scoundrel. This dude is a hell of a businessman, because this is the kind of deal that business people want to make. This is why Donald Trump, and I'm sorry I'm having to go here, but this is a real story. This is why Donald Trump got so mad at the NFL. He wanted to buy the Buffalo Bills. Did you recall that? Like, he was part of an ownership group that wanted to buy the Bills. They wouldn't let him in.
Mm-hmm.
They would not let him in because they know he's a bad fucking businessman. Like, everything he does turns to shit. Okay? Everything. And it's not just me being an anti-Trump, because it's not that. It has nothing to do with his politics. I'm just telling you what, as somebody who has watched Donald Trump, followed this guy's career, even in Vegas, when they opened up the Trump Tower, which we saw, doesn't have a casino in it. Why?
He's a big fan of bankruptcy.
Because he's a bad business owner. This guy, Dan Snyder, he's a good fucking business owner. Now, he could be dirtier than Trump. I don't know. Maybe Trump's dirtier than him. I'm not taking that particular side. I'm just telling you, you look at good owners, or at least good business people versus bad one, this is a good one. I know it sounds crazy because the Commanders have been horrible. They've had no team success. That doesn't fucking matter. Do you think one Super Bowl ring would make you feel better than making $5.2 billion? What?
Well, my point to that is it just goes to show how much of a selfish ownership he is, because obviously with him, he's made his money, but you can tell why everybody wants to get him the fuck out of town, because he's such a bad owner, because the teams have been horrible. He's made his money, but I mean, you and I should come up with a top 5 list of the worst owners of all time.
Well, worst owners, I mean, yeah, the thing with Rivera, or not Rivera, who is their coach, the thing with Schneider that makes him a really bad owner is just like how he could never get out of his own way, right? Like, things were set up for him to succeed the whole time. Change the Washington name, rebrand this thing, make a mint, okay? Go away from the Redskins. Give it something else. He was so dug in on that. You know, it's just, it's crazy. But as far as the ownership of this, if I'm a businessman, I look at this and say, that's what I wanted. Because, I mean, how many business people do you really think, like, get the title of being great guy? Like, how many tycoons in the history of the world are like, man, that guy was really a nice dude. Like, what a soft-spoken, well-mannered, polite, non-impetuous, non-impulsive individual do we have? I think that when you get higher up the rung, they're all dirty, because you can't get to that particular point without being dirty. Not just kind of dirty, but really dirty. So for that, I'm like, yeah, okay, so he's part of the group of fucking scoundrels. But this guy, from a business perspective, he made $5.2 billion in 25 years, or 24 years, because it's 2023. That's a pretty good ROI, dude. Like, that is a pretty good ROI.
I'm sorry. I can't go down the business side with you on this, brother, because I'm just, fuck, man, I have to strongly disagree. I'll agree with you to the business side of it. This motherfucker has had a congressional investigation against him for a hostile workplace, was taking semi-nude pictures of his cheerleaders, divvying them out to all of his friends on DVDs. He sued a 72-year-old woman for fucking season tickets.
Yeah.
He cut down protected trees in a national park so he could have a better view from his fancy-ass fucking mansion. And then he also, of all the stupidest things in the world, he sold 3-month-old peanuts to people at like $10 a pop.
Yeah.
This is one of the worst motherfuckers I've ever come across. He's right up there with Rod Sterling for the Clippers for being one of the worst owners of all time, in my opinion.
Donald Sterling.
Donald Sterling.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. Whatever. This guy, it blows my mind. And to have an ESPN insider who I just think Adam Schefter should just come out and say it, that there's another team or another group of people coming in to bid it. All they're trying to do is boost up the price more for this motherfucker. He just needs to get the hell out. And sorry, I'm cussing a lot. I'm passionate. This guy just needs to get out. And the fact that the NFL owners are just waiting to get out so they don't have to push him out. This has been a soap opera for way too long. And
so what is okay, all right, fine. So soap opera way too long, all this moral outrage, and that's great, because I get you. And I think a lot of people feel probably a lot of the same way. But the moral outrage is completely mooted here, because what of these owners is probably a much better guy?
I'm not disagreeing with that. The only reason the owners are not trying to push him out is because they want the same bullshit to come down on them later.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So this is a cadre of individuals who, I wouldn't say they all have the misdeeds of Dan Snyder, because they don't, or else we would have heard about that. But this is a cadre of individuals who have, become the power brokers of the universe in many respects, because of their willingness to do things that other people weren't, right? Like, that's really what it takes to become that level of rich. You have to be willing to do something that somebody else isn't, whether that's risk taking, whether that's just going out there and taking something from somebody else. None of these guys is like, oh, gee, shucks, mom, I worked hard, I had my paper route, and then all of a sudden, $6 billion later, I'm one of the world's richest people. So in that respect, I don't think any of them are good guys. Like, I don't look at any of them and say, oh, man, I bet they'd be so warm and fuzzy. They petted that puppy on TV. I saw it once. It was swell. So from that perspective, I'm like, yeah, they're all dirty as fuck. Dan Snyder, we just happen to know about more. The interesting thing I think about Snyder and why they haven't pushed him out yet has to do with what was uncovered during one of those investigations that Dan Snyder apparently has paid numerous different undercover investigators to dig up dirt on all of the owners and has threatened to expose them, similar to what Larry Flint did in Hustler magazine when a group of congressional fucking douchebags were trying to shut down his newspaper, essentially his magazine. Larry Flint paid investigators to dig up dirt on all of these different individuals, published their names in his magazine and said, guess what? I've got stuff on all of you. Guess what happened to Hustler? Nothing. He did get shot and put in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. I guess what I'm saying is this. Dan Snyder is dirty. Yeah, but they're all dirty. It's just how dirty, we don't know. So I don't get up the moral dander of like, this guy's terrible. Yeah, probably. They're all probably pretty bad. Jerry Jones was standing outside of a fucking Klan rally as they were trying to desegregate the South, for Christ's sakes. You know what I mean? He might have a white sheet in his closet that we just don't even know about and a horse named Music that he rides in on. I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to go after Jerry Jones for what he did as a 15-year-old kid outside of a high school, and I'm not going to give a flying F about what Robert Kraft did in a massage parlor. That's shit that happened outside of the scope of their businesses.
Sure.
What Daniel Snyder did inside of that business makes him one of the worst human beings of all time. My top 10 list of horrible human beings when it comes to sports owners.
Okay.
And to me, I just can't wait for him to be gone. I think almost everybody in the NFL agrees with that too, especially Washington Commander fans or whatever they rebrand them. The point to this, I'm going to let you laugh out from this one. There's one competitive football team in the Washington's capital, and it ain't the effing Redskins or Commanders. It's the DC fucking Guardians or whatever they are.
The
Commanders. No, not the Commanders. XFL. Sorry, I lost them. So,
well, that's a great pull. That means they are really, really ratcheting up the popularity poll.
Well, I don't listen to I that goes to show I'm passionate about. I forgot but I mean, just to see the passion of the DC fans to come out and watch that, they actually care about a team that's winning and something in DC. And then, granted, it's the XFL.
Yeah.
But you know what, Snyder? If you could actually just have one competitive season in 24 years, you probably won't be having this conversation.
Well, they've had more than one competitive season. I mean, they went to the playoffs with RG3. They've gone to the playoffs. They've been more than competitive. It's not that. It's just, they were 8-1 last year. I mean, Ron Rivera has done a pretty good job coaching
24 years
that
of
team.
Owning that franchise, he's done absolutely shit, in my opinion.
No doubt. And he's driven away Washington fans in droves. Listen, we're not going to sit here and argue the merits of Dan Snyder. I think this guy's a douchebag, a complete tool. What I guess I never confuse is that I don't think that there's much difference. I really don't think there's much difference between what Dan Snyder and most of these other guys do or would do. Now, the differences can seem magnified in many ways, but I would say this, as far as bad owners of all time, every single owner before integration in every single sport is worse than Dan Snyder. Every single owner. Okay. So that's hundreds of owners right there off the top that are worse than Dan Snyder.
But we didn't live in that era.
It doesn't matter. But they, again, if we're talking about the worst of all time.
Well, I'm talking in our lifetimes, I guess, of all time. And the stuff that, we have Marge Schott.
I was going to say, I'm thinking of a few right off the top of my head, but yeah, he's definitely up there. And listen, the thing for Dan Snyder that probably is his biggest Achilles heel in this entire situation is the potential defrauding of his partners. So the NFL, one of the things in this investigation, the congressional investigation into the inappropriate workplace environment that Dan Snyder and not just himself, but the entire collection of Commanders, executives, and front office members sort of helped to foster. Part of that investigation netted this. At least this is something that's being debated right now because the Commanders' financial guy said this is what happened. They lied to the NFL, their partners, about ticket revenue. So every home game, you have to share ticket revenue with the rest of the league. Okay, that's part of the collective bargaining agreement, especially amongst owners. So the idea that the Commanders would have lied to their partners, also defrauded the NFL out of money, that could be one of those real sticking points that behind the scenes, the lawyers have been sort of pressing Dan on and his wife Tanya on about how to get out. Because if in fact that was the case, and they did find it to be factually accurate, first of all, the NFL would not want that to be known publicly. That would not be something that they would want to have be known as true. Because if it's true in one spot, then there is the potential that it's true in many others. And believe me, that's a rabbit hole they don't want to go down. And I think for the most part, the accounting in the NFL is pretty solid, right? That's like the Mormon church. They know exactly how much everybody's giving them and from where. And if you don't fucking pay up, knock on your door, where's our tithing? So I don't know that that's a widespread problem, but they don't want that to be a part of the problem. But it's one of those situations. If you defraud your partners, there's a lot of different legal ramifications that can come down on you. I think Snyder has been long overdue in getting rid of this team. I really do. I think that there has been so much through the years from not naming the team something other than Redskins, a disgustingly racist name. I don't care if people think it's old-timey and all of that shit. That's one of those things that, you've got a couple of trigger words. Well, there's about 270 million people that used to inhabit this continent that might say trigger word. So get rid of it. Make some new money. Make some new jerseys. When they went to the Washington football team, it was awesome. They sold a whole bunch of new gear. You could have done that a decade ago. The other thing, the Washington team really bailed out on their fans. This was a proud franchise, at least reputation-wise. Multiple Super Bowls, the Joe Gibb era, all of these different things. He helped really sour a fan base on a team by, like you mentioned, put out, if not always uncompetitive, less than stellar product. And that really has hurt their ticket sales. FedEx Field, like the whole brand of the thing has fallen under Dan Snyder's ownership. So no doubt the guy's a bad owner. Maybe he's one of the top 5 worst ever. I'm just going to say there are people, and I'm not touting them as good people, but there are people that look at what he's done and think to themselves, that's my kind of guy. As a matter of fact, if Trump does become president, I wouldn't be surprised to see Dan Snyder at the fucking inauguration, like right up there with him. This is my kind of businessman. He screwed everybody, lied about everything. It's so great. This would be like his Huckleberry. Like, wow, what an awesome guy. Look at how well he did.
I'm just saying that I think there's I'm going to agree with you that there's obviously some shady people out there that get away with a lot of things, from Jerry Jones to Jim Irsay, and that we're just talking football there. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people out there too that are just saying, hey, I'm happy it's him because we're not going to get caught, but they're also going to cover their asses to make sure this shit doesn't happen again. And when you fuck with somebody else's money, people are going to come for their money.
Well, that's really the root of all of this, right? If you are really, truly, and this is why I think Dan is probably getting pressed on the back end of this, because of that investigation and what it's really netted as far as information about the workings of the Washington Commanders' internal processes and how they're trying to hide money from their partners. That's a non-starter. And that's where guys like Jerry Jones and the other, you think of the Mara family who own the Giants. You think of the Rooneys who own the Steelers. Those are the ones in the NFL that really can move the needle and start to say, look, you got to get out of here. Those are what I think probably in some back and forth discussions, those are some of the people probably that have said, look, if in fact this is true and you are hiding money from us, we're going to fucking bury you one way or the other. Sell the team, get out, move on. Nobody's going to feel bad for Dan Snyder, though. Like, nobody's going to feel bad for him, and nor should they, because the guy has made $5.2 billion in a profit. That's not, discounting all the profits he's made on the team since he has owned them for the last 24, 25 years. He's going to make another $5.2 billion. Look,
he's moving to London, and now
he probably is going to try to fight an extradition when he gets in trouble and has to get arrested.
I think if there's one owner out there that should have a target on his back and checking himself in the mirror now that Snyder's supposedly selling, it's Dolan in New York, because that guy's probably one of the most hated owners of all time too.
Wait, Jim Dolan of the Knicks? Yeah, but Jim Dolan might not be a great guy. I don't know if I've heard anything shady about it like that. I mean, he just, got in a riff with Charles Oakley, and he owns the Yes Network. I mean, doesn't Dolan own the MSG thing too?
Yep, and he uses the same Vegas facial protection to get into all of his businesses and everything else.
Okay, so this is a quick aside, and I don't have a graphic for this. Damn it, too bad. Speaking of facial protection, what the fuck has happened to Vince McMahon's face?
Oh, dude, he looks
like Vincent Price, like forgot that he was dead and like reanimated himself with CGI.
He looks like a 1970s James Bond French bad guy.
Wow.
Whatever. Yeah, he looks weird, man.
Dude, Vince McMahon, I don't know if you saw this, and I'm talking to you guys and gals out there. I don't know if you saw this, but Vince McMahon was talking about why the WWE sold, of which he actually said nothing. It was the right time to do the right thing. It's like, okay. But he looks so weird. He's got this like oddly colored just for men hair. And like I say, this little Vincent Price mustache type of thing. Vincent Price was a actor back in the old days for Rob Dog and Stoddard. Weird. I mean, he just looks odd. I don't know what to say about that.
I got nothing either, man. Everything about this whole deal is obviously weird to me, and he's weird.
He is weird.
He's just weird.
But the WWE getting sold does make for pretty big headlines, and that's why when you see the de facto owner of the WWE look like that, you're just kind of.
I wonder what Dana White's going to come out looking. Maybe those two should dress up as something together. Put those two meatheads together in the same company.
Dana just slapped the shit out of him. Breacher's checking in and says Dolan is just a chode. He's very sensitive. He has been heckled at his band's shows. That's right. He plays in this band. Kind of funny. Yeah, it is kind of funny. I know these rich dudes are like, yeah, I can hire a bunch of great musicians. They're going to be a band behind me. It's going to be a great rock band, and I'm going to be the lead singer. No. You know who is a good lead singer, though, of a one-man band? Ready for this?
Come all yours.
Our dude Connor, No Show Cadillac. So when we're in Vegas, our man Connor down there plays a show at the Popcorn Tavern. The name of his, act is No Show Cadillac. Writes all of his own music. Has got multiple records worth of stuff on Spotify. I had to ask him last night if we can use his tunes. We had a lot of our friends from downstairs go to his show.
Nice.
Said he was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I knew he was a musician when we brought him on. I just haven't had a chance to listen to any of his stuff.
Well, I think we're missing the boat here. No Show Cadillac. Go check that out. All right, we're going to step aside. We'll come back here. We got about 19 more minutes of awesomeness on the Sports Carnival. Don't forget to come see me at the Recup today. 11 o'clock, we begin our lunch. It's going to be awesome. Spicier traditional gyros with your choice of sides and, of course, tons of alcoholic beverages. We'll get you there.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Hi, I'm Irene, and I care about you. That's why I started Care Packages by Irene, or CPBI. At CPBI, we have a wide range of care packages, from I care about you but don't get too clingy, to I'm completely obsessed with you and you should probably get a restraining order, and everything in between. Because it's CPBI, if you care, we care.
Visit us online at carepackagesbyirene.omg.
Thursday, and if you want to get your mother something really special, Care Packages by Irene, CPBI. You can also shop maxpawn.com. That's where Matt got some really sweet swag. Matt, do you have your watch on?
Yes, I do.
Oh, let me see this thing. Wow. Well, just, maybe hold it up like that. Look at that. Well, you can't really see it too much. Versace.
It's a good find, my friend. Good
Woo.
find. Thanks for the hookup, Mike.
Very nice find. And, I saw your lovely Ashley with her earrings on yesterday.
Yep.
They looked beautiful. They looked beautiful.
I was very pleased.
That's awesome. MaxPawn.com. Michael Mack, owner over there, hooked Matt up with some great stuff. I've bought so much from MaxPawn through the years. It's ridiculous. But if you're just joining the program, boy, we've got a poll question for you. I want to give you a chance to take this on our Facebook group page or the Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. What do you think about those Tampa Bay Rays? Are they going to be able to make history, start off 14-0? They're taking on the Blue Jays today. Rays are minus 136. Run line is at 9.5, which means that's the total that's being out there predicted anyways. You got to go over or under that. What do you think? Can the Rays make history, go 14-0? It's still 100% on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney saying yes.
Personally, I think they can, but we've switched on our Facebook page. Facebook is now up to 55% says no.
Okay, 55% say no. Listen, it's tough. Major League Baseball is one of those, this is a sport of attrition. The longer that you can hold out, the more healthy that you can be by the end. Those are usually the key indicators of who's going to be successful. But where the Rays are at right now, you mentioned the run differential. There's 70-plus runs over their opponents right now through 14 games, through 13 games. They're basically shutting opponents out. Their ERA over the last 10 games is 1.58. Yesterday, giving up 3 runs was kind of like an anomaly.
For sure. Well, I mean,
Tampa Bay's just been lights out. These guys have been fantastic.
Tampa Bay's been fun to watch. I'm not going to say they're going to end up. You brought up the Brewers when, 30 years ago when they were in the same record. They ended up being like 22-21 after like the following 10 games, but I don't see that happening to the Rays.
Well, even the Brewers in 1987, they started off the season 13-0. They finished 91-71.
Yep.
Okay, which is a good record. 91-71 is a good record, to be sure. But they were third place in the AL East, right? Like, so even if you win your first 13, 14 games in this division, particularly the American League East, that does not assure you anything. Yeah. So Tampa Bay, we'll see again. They're playing the Blue Jays 6:07 p.m. That game could be on at the bar. I'm not entirely sure what network will be carrying that, but if it is on, we'll do our best to show that.
I'll check the MLB network. We might be able to get that one in.
It feels like it won't be on today. I was looking at the schedule. They've got a couple games going on Apple Plus, but they didn't really say what was going to be on MLB Network. That is something that we'll have to check out. Apparently, Apple TV Plus is carrying the Angels and the Red Sox, and the Giants and the Tigers. ESPN Plus will be carrying this evening's Brewer and Padre game, as will Bally Sports Network, which we'll have on at the bar. But take this morning's poll question when you get a second. Go to our Twitter feed, check out our Facebook group page, become a member if you haven't already, and let us know. What do you think if the Rays can come out at 14-0 and make some history? So we've got somebody checking in here on our Facebook group page, says, after watching your show and knowing where you come from to where you are, this is so awesome. Thank you.
It's Reg Newsom.
Reggie Reg.
Yep.
That's my man, Reggie Reg, owner of one of Las Vegas's most delicious barbecue trucks, which we did not get to go visit. Unfortunately, Matt, we had, 4 days, but there was still not enough time to get everything in that we would have wanted to. Reggie Reg also was the owner of Club 111 Records and one of the early sponsors of Dave After Dark.
Nice.
If you can believe that. Actually, Reggie Reg was my first real agent too. Back in the day.
Well, I remember when you were, we had a hell of a good time walking around. You're showing me some of your old haunts, and you brought up a lot of where you your old spots, your old haunting grounds.
Yeah. Hey, Reg, check this out. I'm sure you know this because you still live in town, but I showed Matt. We were driving down Desert Inn in Las Vegas, and I pointed to what used to be KLAV radio, KRLV also. So 12:30 a.m., 1340 a.m. was housed in what is now a 2-story looking dispensary, man. It looked like a huge drive-through because it was an old bank building from back in the day. And then it turned into a television station and a radio station. So through the years, when I was in Vegas, it had mostly been a TV and a radio station. But they have repurposed this bad boy to be a dispensary, which is just amazing. I mean, I'm telling you what, we've got Stack's Family Farms around here and our good friends over at Cannabis Depot, and that's all fine and great. The shit you can find in Las Vegas, man, is just, it's fantastic.
Oh man,
it's fantastic.
I couldn't get over. I ran into my older brother the other day. I guess he's out in Vegas, and he's obviously in the professional sports stuff. He's like, Vegas smells like marijuana. When you brought me into a casino and people are smoking cigarettes, smoking marijuana and shit, I'm like, Dave, this is something. I'm culture shock for me. I'm so used to people not smoking in a bar. I'm like, okay, I can hang out here for a little while longer.
Yeah. No, your brother's a pretty square dude, so I'm sure that didn't I'm sure it wafted over him like, what the fuck is this? Is this college again or something like that? I'm going to have to find somebody to kick my brother's ass for me or something, which is something apparently Mark did a lot for you back in the day. Reggie Reg checking back in. He says, yeah, man, it's like a mini mall. So that's the old KLAV, KRLV radio station. I wish we would have had a chance to stop in there, but Reg, I was doing my best to show Matt as much as I could of Las Vegas the way that we would have seen it. Took him down to Blueberry Hill. I think that was when we were going down to Blueberry Hill for breakfast, which is fantastic. In Vegas, there's 3 locations of Blueberry Hill, but you said it reminded you of what used to be Mr. D's?
Mr. D's here back in La Crosse back in the day.
It
brought back some nostalgia. And the food was great. The wait staff, we sat at the counter like it was old school, 1950s style. It was a great breakfast.
Yeah, it really was, man. I actually have had a couple of dreams about that kind of breakfast. To quote Jason Breacher, the food at Blueberry Hill kind of made you want to touch yourself.
Yeah, buddy. Well, it sounds like we're just gonna have to go back, couple months or so.
I'm game for that. Actually, let's see. It's April right now, so we're really good for April, May, and part of June.
There we go.
And then after that part of June, we're probably good to stay in Wisconsin for the rest of the summer and go back out there in fall. When you can get out there late September, early October again, amazing.
Did you get a chance to see your little commercial at all with Mike at all? The
live thing? No, I didn't see that. Nope. I didn't get a chance to see that. I generally don't like to watch myself on things like that. I'll watch this because I want to cut up something.
Right.
I don't like to look at it.
I thought it was pretty cool. Walked in the pawn shop. Next thing you know, you're all mic'd up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lapel mics going, slapped on a Max Bond shirt, jump out there with was she Miss USA Earth?
Earth, I believe. Yeah.
That was her title, right? Miss USA.
Anna, I believe. Yeah. Was her? Yep. Yeah.
Miss USA Earth, I thought was pretty good for me to remember.
Yep.
Like if I could keep that, considering all of what it is that we did over the weekend.
Going on, for sure.
I felt pretty accomplished right there. By the way, if you ever want to chime in, the program is able to take comments on the YouTube feed, on Facebook, and on Twitch. We can't get comments in from LinkedIn or Twitter. I don't know how many people are actually ever watching us on LinkedIn. There are a few. I know there are a few people now and then that watch us because I'll check in on that platform once in a while and see a couple of likes. But the platforms that you can interact with include Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So if you want to make a comment or ever be a part of the show, that's the way it is. I want to get Rob Dog from Stoddard up here, though, because he's been giving us some local stuff here this morning. Matt, Rob is the host of the Rob Dog Sports Brief. You can find that on Instagram. Rob Dog says in local baseball, well, he says local baseball, but I think he means in local baseball. In local baseball, Whitehall won 11-4, over, 1-11-4. Wazeeka wins 8-2. DeSoto wins 3-1. Seneca 14-4. Cashton wins 14-6. In softball, Cashton wins 8-4. Wazeeka 12-4. DeSoto 11-3. And West Salem survives, Rob says, 8-7. Thank you, Rob. We appreciate that, man. That's good stuff. Always like hearing the local stuff. And, Rob's always been good to give it to us. So,
yeah. I can't. It's hard for me to get into a high school sports nowadays. Spring's out. Come on, man.
What are you talking about? You're not a grown man that goes to children's games and looks like, people ask you like, hey, so do you have kids? And you're like, no. No.
Sorry.
What are you doing here? I just came for the cheerleaders and the football.
Exactly.
You're like, wait, what? I mean, and the popcorn. Yeah. Like, oh, all right. Listen, I've known guys that just go to high school games. They don't have kids. They don't have grandkids. They just like to go to high school games, watch the, student athletes.
Okay, man.
No, I'm serious.
I'm with you, but it's not my thing.
Oh, come on, Matt. What do you mean?
No.
Going out to a place with no drinking allowed and sitting around for multiple hours at a time?
No, I'll pass.
I bet you would. I'll pass you a beer and you'll say, thank you. Thank you for not taking me to a high school game.
Exactly.
All right. One thing that I did want to mention as well before we get out of here this morning on the show is the kickoff, the inaugural week of the USFL, buddy. We've got week 9 of the XFL, which we'll talk maybe a little bit about. It doesn't matter. But we do have the kickoff of the USFL, which I'm not sure is going to be a very good league. Last night, I was talking to ESPN's John Papadopoulos doing my Thursday spot. By the way, it's usually about 5 o'clock on Thursdays on ESPN 105.5. I'll be on with John, the sports lead, but sometimes it's like 4 o'clock. We're trying to hone it in at about 5. The long and short of it is I told him that my play of the week this week was to take the unders on just about every single game in the USFL. Because like we saw from the XFL in week 1, Matt, the unders seemed to be the play. And that was sort of a trend for the first couple of weeks in the XFL. We did see some high-scoring teams, right out of the gates. But for the most part, the unders were really coming in. The USFL, this thing could actually be bad because And because I don't mean to say it like disparagingly wise, but this thing could be bad because the XFL has players that we know about, right? Like Ben DiNucci, Jordan Tamao. I mean, these are players that have played in the NFL. AJ McCarron won a national championship, played in the NFL, even with the Bills, however remotely it was. These are kind of like the 54th guys on a lot of teams.
Right.
They could make a practice squad. They could do a lot, but they take this opportunity with the XFL for the eyeballs, right? Like you get more eyeballs than you would on a practice squad. So that said, I think the XFL is set up really well. The USFL, on the other hand, this was a restart that came on the heels of the new XFL restart, which then came on the heels of the COVID pandemic. I just don't know that there's a lot of talent left. And we were talking about the quarterbacks in the USFL the other day, just the two of us, right? Like looking at who these guys were, you won't know them. And that really means that the offense is most likely going to struggle. And when you have these, especially new leagues, early on, Matt, even in the NFL, early on, the defenses are generally better than the offenses because the offenses don't take a lot of preseason snaps. There's some things that, the defenses are quicker to adjust to than offenses. So you can see unders come in first couple of weeks. This league, though, I'm watching the number 38.5, Philadelphia, the Memphis Showboats. Who are these guys that are going to play for this team? I have no idea. So I'm just looking at these unders and saying, take a play on the under. One thing that you can do, which is kind of fun, is say you take the under on the Memphis Showboats and the Birmingham Stallions from the USFL's opening week. And you go to a parlay here. You know what? Let's make that a teaser. And you're using BetUS. You're going to go, oh, there's no teaser. Okay. Well, they're not even going to let us tease this game. Never mind. All right. I was like, let's say you take a teaser and put 6 points on this thing and make the totals 46 and 30 46 and 44 and a half respectively, you're absolutely going to crush these unders. So to me, that's the play of the week. But the lineup does have Saturday. We've got to kick off Philly, Memphis, New Jersey, the Generals, and the Birmingham Stallions, who I did believe won the USFL championship last. And then you've got Michigan, the Panthers on Sunday versus the Houston Gamblers, the Pittsburgh Maulers versus the New Orleans Breakers as well.
Yeah, I guess my whole take on this is I'm just pissed that Jeff Fisher isn't coaching Michigan this year.
You're pissed about that?
Yeah, because it gave me so much fun to make fun of him, man. It was so easy, especially it was in the NFL. He would go like 8-8 every year, and he'd just be always pissed. And Jeff Fisher, to me, is just one of the worst coaches in NFL history, unless you just like ties.
One of the worst in NFL history?
Yeah, that is. If you want to
Dude, with the Tennessee Titans, didn't he go to like an AFC championship game?
You brought up overall product of his entire career.
Yes.
The end of after Steve McNair was gone, Jeff Fisher just went to shit. You might as well just call him Ty Jeff Fisher, because that's all he did is every effing game. So for me, he just gave me a lot of flack. It was fun to make fun of him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just don't know where he's going. Now the Michigan Panthers have Mike Nolan from the 49ers as their head coach. They might have a better team than they did next year. That's my only take on what the USFL may offer this week. With that being said, we have football, XFL, and USFL. So we have baseball, basketball. This is going to be a crazy weekend for sports.
No, I like it. I think that the USFL kicking off right now, if there is an appetite remaining for more football after the XFL, after the NFL, which, listen, I'm not sure that there will be, because the NFL draft is coming up in a 10-day period, basically, right? We're 10, 12 days away from the NFL draft. Well, that's going to be eating up a whole lot of the football consumption diet, if you will. Well, that will be part of the football consumption diet, I should say. Not to say that there won't be something for the USFL, but when I was looking at these rosters, not to beat a dead horse, I just saw a collection of nobodies. I mean, CFL players.
Yep.
This is just really a league of who knows who. And a lot of that comes from the fact that the XFL has taken the talent that would have been in the USFL had the XFL not rebooted, right? Like if those guys weren't playing in the XFL, then you could see the likes of the AJ McCarrons, the Ben DiNucci's, the Jordan Tamahus, the whomever's, even the Brent Hundleys of the world, who's not even getting time for the Vegas Vipers. I mean, this was a Packer for 4 years.
Yep.
So I think that talent would have matriculated into the USFL. There's just right now seemingly not the kind of talent. So I take the unders. I like what you're saying, though. A lot of action this weekend. And by the way, not that just because you can't make a teaser card on this USFL action, which I didn't see coming, only because I'm going to say the book's not going to take that much of a dive on a USFL games. Nobody's betting this shit yet. So they're not going to let us tease that, because that would essentially be stealing their money. But you can bet on USFL football. You can bet on XFL football. Just go to the website that you're seeing all the time. Scroll along the bottom of your screen, betus.com. Enter promo code Carnival. Get yourself 125% free play money on deposit. Again, betus.com. Enter promo code Carnival. 125% free play money on deposit. You can bet on all these sports. The NBA play-in tournament, let's get to this real quick, is also going to tonight give us for at least now the Bucks opponent. They'll have an opportunity to face either Chicago or the Miami Heat. I would rather the Bucks play the Bulls, because the Bulls are a worse team than the Heat in a lot of ways. Miami's been really inconsistent, but Jimmy Butler's one of those guys I just never really want to see take on the Milwaukee Bucks. That said, Miami should lose no matter what. They're going to be playing at 6 o'clock tonight, TNT. Oklahoma City will take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the Thunder and the T-Wolves are playing for that 8th seed. It does look like Rudy Gobert for the T-Wolves will be available. I don't know if he's going to play. They suspended him for that first play-in game versus the Lakers, which, listen, they almost won. They took the Lakers to overtime. The Thunder, though, this will be an interesting matchup. They're the 10 seed and looking to get into the playoffs as the 8th seed. That game will be 8:30 on ESPN. We'll have all of this action for you, by the way, downstairs at the Recap tonight. We have plenty of high-def TVs to capture all of this action. So
with that being said, I think Minnesota's obviously very under. They don't have their complete. They have 3 guys out as well. Sorry, just lost my train of thought there. And then with the Bucks or the Bulls and the Heat, the Bulls have they swept the series with the Heat over the entire season, but that doesn't mean shit. Whoever wins this game, like you and I said on vacation, Dave, it really doesn't matter. The Bucks are going to roll right through whoever the hell they play, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was talking to Ben downstairs in the kitchen about this last night. He's a big Bucks fan, and I told Ben that it, to me, really is not a disservice at all, but almost a compliment to the Bucks that they're not being discussed in national punditry as the team with the best chance to win the championship. They beat everybody on every fucking level. They have the best player on the court in Giannis. They have the best supporting cast. They have the best coach, or at least one of the best coaches in the NBA right now. He's already a 2-time coach of the year with 1 championship to his belt, multiple trips to the conference finals. So, Bud gets my nod, one of the best coaches. The Bucks are so under the radar because they're so much better than everybody. And I do think that if Giannis was American, we would talk about this Bucks team a lot differently. But because he's a foreigner and he doesn't have the same pomposity that some of our American players, the flash and the braggadocio, we don't give him the same nod. Giannis is like Jordan right now in this respect. When he walks onto the court, he's better than your best player.
Yeah.
He is better than your best player. Joel Embiid, get the fuck out of here. Giannis will block your shot, dunk on your stupid lazy ass, and steal the game and the series from you. Nikola Jokic, good player. You can't run with that guy. So he's like Michael, and the rest of the team kind of like the Bulls. They're just going to bull you over. So I like the Bucks in 4. Doesn't matter who they play. And I think the Bucks do make it to the championship, at the very least, make it to the NBA championship this season.
For sure, man.
All right, boys and girls, we're running up against it. Matt and I have got to get to work. As a matter of fact, we are really, really tight. I've got to walk the dog. We'll see you at the recovery room starting at 11, spicier traditional Euro. And it's going to be great outside. It's already sunny and 60-something degrees. Have a great day and awesome weekend. We'll talk to you bright and early on Monday.
Peace.